Calling to order the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting for November 9th, 2021. It is approximately 7 p.m. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Roll call, please.
Mayor Griesbach?
Here.
Mrs. Gatos?
Here.
Mr. Poach?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Wolfram?
Here.
Mr. Arasenko? Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Little?
Here.
Mr. Ratcher?
Here.
Ms. Rock?
Here.
Mr. Hugus?
Here.
Mr. Sedlak?
Here.
Mr. Weldon?
Here. Council, we're going to start our meeting with the recognition of one of our officers, an event that took place in Pitcairn October 9th. We have some very special guests here this evening. We have Pitcairn Mayor Betsy Stevick. We also have Pitcairn Officer Lawson is here with us as well. And our Police Chief Cole here is to explain the situation that happened in Pitcairn on the 9th. Chief.
Mayor, thank you very much. Council, Municipal Manager, glad to be here. This is obviously the good stuff that chiefs get to do when one of their officers do great things. I was actually I was there, I witnessed this event early on and saw their actions firsthand, including the apprehension of the suspect that was involved in this event back on October 9th. I'm gonna read a quick prepared event about what occurred here and why we're honoring Officer Joseph Sasella. Why don't you guys come on up here, please stand by me. Saturday, October 9th at around 1:02 in the afternoon, Monroeville Communications Center began receiving multiple phone calls that there was a vehicle crash with multiple gunshots fired. Additional phone calls indicated the vehicle was on its roof and that there were 2 people shot or injured inside the vehicle. Pitcairn police responded immediately and arrived within 2 minutes to find the vehicle on the roof with 2 victims inside. That's obviously Officer Larson was part of that initial response with Chief Forelli. The male occupant was deceased due to gunshot wounds. The female occupant was still in the vehicle, semi-conscious, with at least 1 gunshot wound to her left femur region, left upper leg region. Monroeville Officer Sasella, standing next to me, arrived within 4 minutes from dispatch and proceeded to assist with extricating the female victim out of the vehicle, along with the Pitcairn officers. After removing the female from the vehicle to the sidewalk, he immediately noticed that she was bleeding very profusely, and he applied a tourniquet to her left leg within 2 minutes after his arrival on the scene. Monroeville number 4 EMS arrived really right behind that within a minute, took over patient care, and had that person transported to a level 2 trauma center here in Monroeville. We're lucky to have that with Forbes Hospital. And she was at the hospital by 29 minutes after the hour. So the whole event took no more than 28 minutes, really from time of dispatch to she's at a trauma center being treated, and she had life-threatening injuries. The tourniquet applied to her leg stopped that bleeding. I was told when she was in the ED, they removed the tourniquet and then she started to squirt blood off the ceiling. So she definitely had an arterial bleed. Was taken straight to the OR within 5 or 10 minutes after her arrival in the ED at the emergency department. After immediately providing emergency care, Officer Sasella then began looking for the suspected shooter along with multiple police agencies that Mayor Stevick will explain. The suspect was described as a black male, medium build, approximately 6 foot in height, wear a hooded sweatshirt, dark pants, and a covering on his face of some type. At approximately 13:28, which would be 1:28, so this is less than 20 some odd minutes after we arrived on the scene, Officer Sasella caught that person coming out of the wooded area by the sugar camp and made the arrest, got him arrested. The scene was turned over to Allegheny County homicide detectives, and they determined that the person detained by Officer Sasella was in fact the suspect, Gerhart Cogdale. Cogdale was criminally charged with firearms violations at this point. That investigation is still ongoing concerning the homicide and the ag assault charges. additional charges are likely in this case. But obviously, we made it very easy on county homicide to solve this, this case. And again, I was there early on. I saw the operation of all the police departments that were involved, and they did an outstanding job. It was really they need to be recognized. So I'll turn it over to
Mayor, Gerhart, Chief Cole, Council, thank you for having us. It's a great honor and a pleasure to be here to give this commendation. We've given it to the Pitcairn, to the Chief, and to Officer Lawson, and we wanted to do it in front of you for your officer. Whereas the Pitcairn Borough Council and myself, Mayor Margaret Stevick, want to commend and thank you for your immediate response to the shooting on Saturday, October the 9th, 2021. And whereas within minutes of your first call, you and two of the other officers arrived on the scene, extracted and applied a life-saving tourniquet to the entrapped female who was bleeding profusely from several gunshot wounds. Whereas you set up and secured 4 crime scenes, 1 in North Pitcairn, and within 30 minutes with the assistance of 10 other police departments, including Monroeville, of course, Wilkinsburg, and Swissville K-9, Chief Tom Dick and the Pitcairn Fire Department, they found the weapon and had the suspect in custody. Wherefore, on behalf of myself, Pitcairn Council, we appreciate your dedication, and you also, Chief Cole, for your professionalism. Thank you.
Don't be hard. Well done, Celso.
Good job, thank you so much. Good job. How you been? See you good.
Thank you. Mayor's squared.
Bye, Betsy.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, absolutely. We thank you.
I grew up with her in Pitcairn.
Very nice.
Yes, Officer Cicella, really deserves a lot of accolades for that day. Very impressive, and this is also a great thanks to our dispatch center, our entire police department that responded, Pitcairn PD, all the surrounding communities, number 4 EMS, and certainly Forbes Hospital. But 21 minutes is pretty remarkable from getting a tourniquet and saving this woman's life to actually catching the suspect. It's really incredible. I mentioned it to him in the hallway, how impressive it was, and very modestly just said it was a good day. So, Officer Cicella,
Good answer.
we're very proud to have him on the force, and he deserves all the recognition. So, Council, we're going to move over to our regular council meeting. We're going to start with we have our public comment period on proposed agenda items only. So if there's anyone that would like to speak about anything that's on the agenda this evening, now would be your chance to do so. There was a sign-up sheet. We typically ask for a 5-minute time limit on your comments. We do this just to keep the meeting moving. So if there's anyone that is signed in, now would be your chance to address council. And you are signed in?
Yeah.
Thank Thank you. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Georgiana Woodhall, live at 4560 Broadway Boulevard in Monroeville, directly across from Haymaker Village Shopping Center, and my property pretty much spans the length of the plaza. I'm just here out of concern with the daycare center that's being proposed for the empty space there at the plaza, because there are safety issues on that road, and because that's a failing intersection, that spills over into the driveway, the safety issues. The traffic backs up on Haymaker and on 130 there. As you can see, this is in front of my home.
We'll capture that in a moment.
Okay.
Jared, if you could get the eye in the sky on. We'll get there if you want to proceed with your comments.
So it kind of goes along with the pictures here. The traffic backs up on Haymaker, up around the corner, all the way to the top of the hill, and also in front of my home, pretty much the length of the plaza. And since it's a failing intersection, people all day long run that light. And they run it when they come into Haymaker, off of Haymaker, they're running the light and they're going into that main driveway of Haymaker Village. And that's the area where these children are going to be crossing over. As far as Forbes Road, they shoot up Forbes Road, they run the light there and right into that same busy driveway area. And that has resulted in the last year and a half, 2 pedestrians hit right in that intersection in that driveway area. One was resulted in injuries. The other one was a hit and run. On the 11th of August, there was a pedestrian accident on Broadway at Coffee Street and resulted in the death of, I believe, a 32-year-old man from Pitcairn. The speed limit is 40 miles an hour on the road. And, I've asked if it could be reduced. In Pitcairn, it's 25 mile an hour. On the Trafford Bridge, it's 25 mile an hour. I believe that if it could be reduced to 25 and be consistent with that entire area, that may relieve some of the safety issues there on Broadway, because it gets like a speed, like a racetrack. In addition to that, there have been 2 runaway truck accidents on Haymaker, coming down Haymaker. One resulted in a large box truck, and ended up in the parking lot of Haymaker Village on its side. The other one was a tanker truck that came down Haymaker, that ended up wrecked and stopped short of the S&T Bank. I've asked before, can there be a weight limit put on that road? I realize it's a county road. But that would probably eliminate, these trucks traveling down Haymaker. They shouldn't be on Haymaker. If you want Haymaker to be pedestrian friendly, you've got to keep the trucks off of it, up on that upper end. And in addition to that, there are 2 utility poles on my property on my side of the road that were replaced over the summer from a truck accident. Truck hit both poles, and both poles had to be replaced. That area, if these aren't addressed, these issues are not addressed, it is going to jeopardize the safety of those children walking there. In Pitcairn, if you notice, there's a sign that goes across on Broadway that has pedestrian warning and flashing lights. And I would say that would have to be something that would have to be considered on Broadway and in the area of that driveway in order to slow people down and let them know that there's children crossing there. That's pretty much my main concern. And in addition to that, the location of that playground is on a piece of property, and I know that it's in her lease agreement that she has access to that property to put that next to the Advanced Auto Parts. My only concern is, and maybe it shouldn't be a concern of mine, but I know that council in 2006, and I'm going to just submit this for the record, it was the Planning Commission in March of 2006, approved a site plan there for the Widewater Group. And it was approved by council shortly after that. And it was, the applicant is requesting conditional use approval as amended in Monroeville's zoning ordinance 1443 as amended, permitting uses of conditional use at an intersection at a major thoroughfare and transportation artery to include the construction of a retail shopping center with primary access being signalized intersection at Route 130 Broadway Boulevard, Haymaker Village, and Forbes Road. Total property 16.5 acres. Property is zoned C2 Business Commercial. 064ST Y Waters Monroeville. Applicant is requesting site plan approval for the construction of a retail shopping center, 36,660 square feet in size, and associated site improvements to be located west of existing Haymaker Village Shopping Center. Total property area equals 16.5 acres. The property is zoned C2 Business Commercial. If that playground is placed in that area, is that encroaching on that site plan? Widewaters has come before the Monroeville Planning Commission, and I know that Linda was on council, and I don't know how many members, Mr. Harvey may have been on council, to ask for an extension onto the time limit, so that they could, when they do decide to build, they would not have to pay all these fees, that they would just have to bring the stormwater management, be in compliance with stormwater management and any other changes that they might have to redo, but they would not be responsible for all the fees. At the council meeting, at the hearing on Thursday, and I don't know if it was Mr. Harvey or somebody had asked, expressed concern that that was very close to the Advanced Auto Parts building and close to that parking lot. I don't know which member of council asked the question, but I believe the applicant, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I might have heard it differently. I believe she stated that if it was too close, that she could move it somewhere else on that lot. And, you know, my question is, again, you approved a site plan for the Widewater Group. How could she move that onto another area of the lot if it was on that site plan?
Right. If you could hand that in for the record, that
Yeah, I
we're
will.
talking about. I mean, but I believe what you're referring to, that would be, it's still under that's the right of the property owner to do up the lease for a
Correct.
business. And if they decide that they want to use part of that parcel for a playground or whatever it is, I mean, that's within
Right,
their
part
right.
of that parcel.
That wouldn't really impact what was approved for the
But if
Widewaters property.
if she's saying that she could move that playground elsewhere on that lot, if it was in the area where you approved the site plan, where you already approved a site plan, could that create a problem here at the municipality?
I don't believe so,
You
no.
don't believe so?
The property owner would obviously, if they wanted to then build pursuant to that site plan, they'd have to relocate those facilities. In most commercial leases, the landlords reserve the right to relocate tenants because opportunities arise and, you know, then they need some property somewhere. So in the event that that would happen, Widewaters they would essentially be in control of that.
Right. Right, well, those are basically the safety issues on that road. And one, as I said, because of the conditions and because of the failing light, this is carrying over into that driveway because people are driving recklessly.
So yeah, if you could
and-
hand in the form, the paperwork you just described, and maybe those, did you want to hand in the photos as well?
I have
record.
smaller ones I'd rather
That's fine.
hand in than that. I can tell you that the only other concern, and this is, probably something that would have to be concerned, there's at the daycare center, is the area where these children are going to be walking from the area where they're going to be, and there's Papa Rocks there, are tables all along there. Are these children going to have to step out to the street to get around these tables that are in front of Papa Rocks? I don't know if you can see that on here. That whole area is lined with outdoor dining.
Well, the state calls the shots on the license for the business once it, if it gets approved by this council, so they'd be the ones,
Yeah, I would
Dictating
just
that?
pass this in just for you
Yeah.
to see what I'm talking about there.
and as we learned at the meeting on Thursday, I mean, two things, I mean, the kids are never unsupervised. I
Right.
mean, it's either anywhere from 2 to 3 adults that are supervising the kids as they go to this playground.
Right.
They are not crossing the street up at Broadway.
Exactly.
They're nowhere near, they'll be on the sidewalks that you described by Papa Rocks, and maybe the dollar store's there, and then
Right.
maybe be going to the playground by the Advanced Auto Parts, and then if otherwise, they'd be to and from their parents' car, which there is also the tenant.
Yeah, and when
They
I
have-
asked
they have-
for.
They have parking
Right.
specifically for
When I
their
asked
parents and
for,
customers.
it's possible to get a weight limit on Haymaker Road, that is to avoid, I mean,
That'd be a
any
county,
trucks
that'd be a
coming
county
in.
issue, and that might be worth
and,
looking
you know,
into.
I had called Brandon Markosik's office and just asked, like, who would be the person, how would we go about trying to get a speed limit reduced to be consistent all through from Pitcairn, since it is in Pitcairn and on the Trafford Bridge, why not make it that entire strip there? Like, who would be responsible? And I had talked to David at Markosik's office, and, you know, he said, you know, you could start with your representative, Linda, and if there's any need, you know, from their office, that they're there to help in any way that they can, you know, which is assuring.
Yeah, that would be a PennDOT or a state.
Yes.
Right, that would be the
State
state,
site.
right.
That would have to be
That's
state.
130.
Right.
So if you have anything else to add?
Yes, one other issue. For years, since the
And this is
shopping.
about, stay
This
on
is,
point of the
I know,
agenda,
for the
please.
years that, since the plaza went in, and I had many conversations with the police chief, there's been an issue there with trailer trucks pulling in and idling during the day, idling at night. And the signs are posted for no truck or trailer parking.
And how does this relate to the agenda that we're talking about?
Well, how it relates is you cannot have these trucks idling in a parking lot near a daycare center. And, you know, that's a lot of pollution. I mean, it's happening, you know, the last time it happened, I called, it was, you know, in June. It was an code orange day that was issued by the Allegheny County Health Department for no idling. So you bring children, you know, in an area where this is going on, when these trucks leave after idling for 10 hours, that pollution doesn't go with them, it stays there. So I think that's a health concern, and I think that it can, you know, the police are definitely good about, you know, addressing the issues, but it really needs to stop. You can't have this happening in the plaza.
And that can be
there.
discussed with the plaza ownership group.
And as I said, in addition to that, they have been very good, the Whitewater Group's been very good about addressing the problems.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to address council on agenda items only?
Right here. Thank you.
And if you could just sign in if you haven't.
I did.
And then if you just state your name for the record.
Mona Robertson. My concern with the daycare center also would be the safety, and a speed limit through the parking lot is probably Whitewater's responsibility, but I believe the Miracle Mile has a posting of the speed limit, and I think that they should also down there, because I was down there on Sunday, and I know I was at the stop sign making a right onto Broadway, and a pickup truck came from behind the dollar store, and he didn't even stop. And I was at a complete stop, and I waited because I did see him come, but just the safety issues down there. And that's all I really needed to say.
And you're aware that they might help because psychologically the person sees the speed limit sign, but it's not enforceable.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, and the plaza could.
It's on
they
private
could-
property.
Plaza could do that. The plaza could also install speed bumps. That's within their right to do those things. So I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, they're right now, this, I guess, last couple of weeks, they have been repaving and doing the ramps, but they haven't put a ramp on the far right-hand side of the Dollar General. They put it in front, so when you come out the door, I guess the customers can take their buggies across the street. But I know I slow down when I go through there, and I do let the pedestrians cross, but the sidewalk, you know, is a danger there where around the corner there, and if they would have a crosswalk, even for the pedestrians to go into the parking lot, that would help too. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address council on the agenda only?
I have a question.
You can, come on up.
I'm wondering, do I have the opportunity to?
Come on up.
Okay,
Sign in.
You have to sign in and.
okay.
Well,
Good
you,
evening.
and just to be clear, you are the applicant
Yes.
of the business in question.
That's correct. And I'm wondering, do I have the opportunity to try to address the concerns that have been expressed
You-
now?
You,
Well,
Or,
now, because I
Well-
have questions,
well,
since I
th-
wasn't here.
so this is
What
what
are
we're
we
gonna do.
doing this?
This we're gonna, how about this? I know you have you're signed in right now. If you could just have a seat for 1 moment.
okay,
And first, what we're going to do is see if anyone else wants to address council on anything on the agenda. There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting to discuss any municipal item, but as far as the agenda, is there anyone wanting to speak about that right now? Okay, seeing now, we're going to close the public comment period. And then council, in order for us to, we're going to skip around on the agenda, I would encourage everyone to go to the second page. We have our new business item number 1, which is 21-2-C, Dreamers and Achievers Early Education Academy. The applicant is requesting conditional use approval to operate a childcare facility pursuant to Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended, section 401.9. The property is located at 4500 Broadway Boulevard. That is in the Haymaker Village Shopping Center, tax parcel 861E229 in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. The Planning Commission recommends approval, and there was a public hearing about this item on Thursday at our Citizens Night meeting. So, council, what I'm asking is actually, is there any kind of motion on this item?
I make a motion, we approve.
A motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve. Now we can have discussion and questions about it. So I'll open up the floor for that. So, Mrs. Gatis, do you have something?
Yes, I do.
Start
have
with you.
A few questions. Did she come up,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
please?
Mason, I'm sorry, if you say your name for the record again.
yes, Lavette Smith.
Lavette, welcome
Yes.
back.
Thank you.
Lavette, I was not here on Thursday. I apologize. This is my ward, and I sat home and watched the meeting and wrote down a few questions so that I can be clear
Okay,
myself, okay? They had mentioned a crosswalk. Is that being considered to be done a crosswalk between the Dollar General and the Advanced Auto?
between the Dollar General
And
and the
advanced
steps going up to the parking lot
Yeah,
for the
through,
advanced.
through that, from the
Isn't-
end
isn't
of
that
Dollar
a-
General
isn't that
to
their
the next,
renters'
I'm sorry, I'm
One second.
talking.
Responsibility?
I'm sorry, I'm talking.
Let's finish your thought, please.
As she had mentioned, when you step off the curb at Dollar General till the kids would walk across to the Advanced Auto, I'm guessing, property, has there been any discussion of making that a crosswalk that would have like signage to it to
So
make it safer for the walk?
with the signage, there has not been any discussion about that. The discussion was if the landlord would put in a crosswalk, and he did agree to that. May I show you this picture, please?
Well,
And we'll-
I think Mrs. Gatis has a valid point there, because the one thing that's enforceable on private property is a pedestrian and a crosswalk. The crosswalk has to be there.
So, and I'm sorry, if you could, okay, you have an image?
Try that again. Okay, so this is the proposed crosswalk here.
And then, 1 second,
There you go. If you
now
slide it up.
push it
Slide it up a little
towards
bit.
me.
There we go.
There we go.
That's perfect.
That's it.
Okay,
And if you could just briefly orient us as far as the
Yes.
map, like where Broadway Boulevard is.
okay, so here is the boulevard, here's Dollar General.
Okay,
All right, and this is coming off of the sidewalk from Dollar General. The crosswalk would go over to the steps that the
That,
children
that
would
would take you up to the Advanced Auto.
That is correct.
So they are willing to put the crosswalk in.
That is correct. This is from the landlord. This is the
Okay.
crosswalk that
So
they
that,
would put in.
that answers my question on that. So while we are taking the kids across the crosswalk, how many monitors to how many children are we talking?
So it depends on how many children and the ages that we have, but the standard is there's always going to be a monitor or teacher in front, there's always going to be a teacher in the back, and then depending on the number of children, sliced in between. So
Okay.
there could be 2 or one. If we have 7 kids, it might be one that's in between, because the ones that are in the front usually have one, one child's
Right.
hand, et cetera. So depending on the number and the age, we would have appropriate amount.
Okay, so for, like you see the PennDOT workers in the orange or in the bright green or anything, do you guys have any like paddles or, thank you.
So all of
your
our
answer.
monitors and teachers would wear this, and we use these for our kids currently. We
Okay.
can always get something larger.
Okay.
But they always use these as we go out to teach the kids about going and stopping.
Perfect. See, these are things that weren't discussed the other night, and you're like calming some of my worries.
Good.
Okay, so now I know that you moved was it not supposed to be between Dollar General and Papa Rocks, and then it got moved to the other side of Papa Rocks?
My interest was in that space originally,
Okay.
but I believe Dollar General wanted to expand, so I was asked to move to the other side.
Okay, so you had already applied to the state, or was that after you decided to move to the other side?
I will not apply to the state until I receive approval from the municipality, from the borough.
Okay, so, because I'm wondering if the state's gonna be okay with, as they had mentioned, Papa Rocks has outdoor dining, there's people out there drinking, smoking, and where do you take the children when you walk in front of them?
So they do have outdoor dining, but it is a sidewalk for everybody
Right.
to use that. So it has to be enough space for everyone to be able to move through. And even if we're taking the children, we're looking at the space between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. possibly that we're taking the children outside. So I'm not quite sure about how much is going on around that time, but
Yeah.
I don't see that to be an issue. As far as the state is concerned, there are no requirements requirements as far as the facility being next to a pizza or restaurant that serves alcohol.
Okay,
That is
so
not
they're
anything.
fine with that.
They are,
Okay,
as
so-
long as the borough is fine with that.
Okay, so, let's see, all right, so I got that. The other thing is I know that Advance Auto has signed on to this whole idea of you walking the kids
Yes.
past them, but they're a tenant of Whitewater,
Widewater, yes.
correct?
That's
So
correct.
what would happen if they get another tenant that doesn't want to walk the kids in front of them?
Well,
Just,
I think, I mean, I can give you my input, but they are a tenant, so this is not their
but
property.
in your lease, I'm hoping that you're
Right.
covered. in
I
case-
do have a license agreement for the neighboring vacant land, so that if anything changes for ownership or anything, I have access to that
Okay.
land in my lease, and I have that here.
Okay, all right, well, the safety pieces that you put in place, I thank you for that.
Absolutely.
My biggest fear was the kids,
Yes.
and I'm sure they're yours as well.
Of
But I
course.
wanted everyone that is listening to know that these things are in place before it'd be something I would even be willing to consider.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Council, any other comments or discussion about this item at this time?
Yeah, she did her homework.
She did, absolutely. Regarding the crosswalk, would council entertain putting that as one of the conditions? that the
Absolutely.
crosswalk-
Absolutely, yeah.
I will not vote yes unless it's there.
And that's something we could, and, do we have to amend?
Mr.
the
Weldon,
resolution?
can we have that added as a condition?
Just
Thank you.
just to add it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Wilson, would you amend your motion to include the crosswalk as a condition?
I'd be happy to, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In a second?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask
Mr.
one more question?
Let me get Mr. Williams, and I'll come right back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, could we ask the manager to ask the state to change that speed limit sign? I mean, that's a 1 mile stretch. It's not 25 miles an hour.
It has nothing to do.
Hey, it's worth
What we
looking
have
into,
to
but
do-
that's outside of this motion, but I think that's worth looking into.
Okay. The last idea I had, and I don't know if it's feasible or not, but when you come to that stop sign, and most people do make a left into the plaza.
Yes, that's correct.
I'm wondering if Whitewater would be willing to make that a local delivery only access, so that you don't have all these cars, like she said about a truck coming from behind, not even paying attention. I don't even know if they have a stop sign coming back out.
So, if I may just address that, there were 2 traffic studies done over the last 5 months or so.
By your people?
Yes.
I understood, okay.
That's correct. And the last one was in September, and on 3 different days, September 10th, 20th, and 21st, between the times of 11 a.m. and I believe 2 p.m., we counted the number of trucks that actually went straight through that crosswalk. And there was just one, on September 10th, there was one box truck. On September 20th, between 11 and 2 p.m., there was one semi-trailer. And September 21st, there was one tow truck. So there's not an abundance of traffic that is going straight through that crosswalk. Now, the traffic that made a left, that study was kind of done in July. And there were more, of course, vehicles and trucks because it's a shopping plaza. So
Correct.
they're making that left to do their shopping. So we counted this was actually from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. because we were considering the traffic that the parents would also bring with their cars,
For
et
dropping,
cetera.
yeah,
That's
dropping
correct.
their kids off, right.
So for cars and SUVs, there were 25 that came through between 8 and 11. For trucks, there were 3. For semi-trucks, there was 1. And there were 6 buses that came and stopped and went through that area. And that's 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Another time was 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. because of pickup and lunch and going outside. There were 58 cars, 6 trucks, 0 semi-trucks, and 3 additional buses. 3:30 to 5:30 for pickup again for the later evening, and drop-off because we take school-agers
Okay.
coming in.
After school.
That's
Gotcha.
correct. And so there were 37 cars, 1 truck, 1 semi-truck, and 6 buses that were stopping in that area between 3:30 and 5:30. So yes, there is traffic, and there should be, because
Yes.
it is a shopping plaza.
Right.
But it is not an extreme amount of traffic that we cannot handle taking the children from the location to the play yard with 3 to 5 adults with the children.
Gotcha.
And if I just may also mention that there has been discussion about how unsafe. I realize that we're talking about Broadway, but that is different than what's going on in the plaza. And from the landlord, there were only 2 incidents in the last 2 years that, where there was a car that, a DUI that drove up on the sidewalk, which was closer to Broadway, and another accident, again, that was closer to Broadway.
Well, those
are the
things are
only
gonna
2
happen,
within 2 years.
But I had also said that, that doesn't really have anything to do
Right.
with what you're trying to accomplish.
That's
I was-
correct, but I
was
just
more
want to
worried about the
clarify,
kids. Yeah.
there aren't like thousands of accidents in that area.
I shop there all the time,
Yes,
so.
yes.
I was more concerned with kids getting walked across and you have the vest, you have the little light things.
Absolutely.
I like the little light.
I like those little light things too. So.
Very good.
You've answered everything that as I was saying, I was sitting home writing down all my questions.
Wonderful.
So I appreciate the time and effort that you all put into it.
Thank you.
Council, there is a motion and a second to approve this item with the condition of the crosswalk. Any other further discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Good
Good
luck.
luck.
Good
Very
luck to you,
much.
ma'am.
Good luck.
Welcome to Monroeville. Council, moving back into our agenda,
It's easy.
we have an executive session announcement. The council conducted an executive session before this evening's regular council meeting, November 9th, from 6:15 PM to approximately 6:45 PM for personnel and litigation reasons. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at tonight's November 9th council meeting. Council, the minutes in front of you, we have the Citizens Night meeting of October 7th, 2021, the council agenda-setting meeting of October 7th, 2021, and the regular council meeting of October 12th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Reports of the tax collections. Council, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve in a second. Any comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Council, list of bills and budget transfers. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And the payroll report. Is there a motion, council?
Motion. Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And all those items were discussed at our November 4th, Thursday, agenda-setting meeting. Council, moving over to our vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities. Mrs. Gatos, I'll start with you. It's the blue section in the packet. Anything?
No, I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Poach?
Nothing at this time, sir.
Mr. Harvey?
Nothing.
Mr. Wilson?
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Wolfram?
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Williams?
Nothing.
Very good, thank you.
Excuse me.
Moving down to our new business, our second item, 21-4-SUB, KDP Roosevelt 369 LLC, the Penn Monroe. Mr. Little, please.
Yeah, applicant is requesting a preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide tax parcel 743G70. The parent parcel is 4.774 acres and will be divided into two lots. Lot 1 will be 2.573 acres, and Lot 2 is to be 2.201 acres. The property is located at 3995 William Penn Highway, otherwise known as the Penn Monroe site, in the C2 Business Commercial District. Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion is second to approve. Any comments or questions, council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motions for this evening, we have two, council. Mr. Little.
Yes, first one is a motion to accept the resignation of Dan Gerhart from the Planning Commission effective immediately. Councilman Aracinco had a question about this, and
I've
Mr.
clarified that.
Yeah, Mr. Gerhart did hand in his resignation for the Planning Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next item.
Okay, motion to authorize to advertise for the Comcast franchise agreement public hearing for December 9th, 2021 at the agenda-setting meeting, and for consideration of the Comcast franchise agreement ordinance for the December 14th, 2021 council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion second to approve, and this is just to authorize the advertisement. This is not to approve it. This is just so we can advertise it, so we can then discuss it at the December meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Resolutions for this evening, council. There are two items. Mr. Little.
Okay, a resolution electing to amend the non-uniform pension plan administered by the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System pursuant to Article 4 of the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement Law, agreeing to be bound by all provisions of the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement Law as amended and as applicable to member municipalities. We discussed this at the Thursday work session, agenda-setting meeting, and I'd recommend for council to approve this.
Motion.
Well, Mr.
Do we have to untable first?
Yeah, Mr. Poach, would you
Motion to untable, Mr.
untable?
Okay, motion on table.
I'll
And a
second that.
second?
Yes.
So this vote in the affirmative is only to take it off the table so we can
Right,
act on it.
Right.
So, roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Now, is there a motion to act,
I'll make a motion.
Second. Board.
to approve? Motion is
Yes.
second to approve this item.
Yes.
Any comments or questions, council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next item.
Okay, a resolution approving the transfer of restaurant liquor license number R-12450 into the Municipality of Monroeville for Rare Hospitality Incorporated, otherwise known as Longhorn Steakhouse, located at 3951 William Penn Highway.
Motion.
Second. to a third, fourth.
Second, third, fourth.
We only need one. So we have a motion and a second to approve this item.
Yes.
Yes.
Any comments or questions, council? I will just say this was a public hearing item at our Thursday meeting. No other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Look forward to eating there.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is for a potential Longhorn Steakhouse at the
Yes.
site of the Golden Corral.
Yep.
A nice addition to the community.
Yes.
Ordinances this evening, we have three. Mr. Ratcher, please.
First one is an ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville authorizing the proper officials of Monroeville to enter into a collective bargaining agreement with the Refuse Collection Division of the Department of Public Works for the period of January 2020 through December 2023. And this matter is on the table, so if council wishes to act on it, you should begin with the action to take it off the table.
Motion to take it off the table.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Counselor, is there a motion to act?
approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any questions or comments, council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. I just want to thank staff for working hard to get this completed.
Well done.
Next item.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, accepting Asbury Court.
Council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any questions or comments?
Steve Asbury, Grantwood Court.
Any questions or comments? Very good. Roll call, please. Motion, the motion is to approve.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson? I'm sorry. Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next item, Mr. Ratcher.
Final ordinance is an ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, accepting Grandwood Court.
Motion approved.
We have a motion to
Second.
approve and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And moving over to reports of municipal staff, Mr. Ratcher, anything this evening?
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Little.
Just one item, the Tricog Land Bank is intending to acquire properties, two properties on Woodlawn Avenue, 2645 Woodlawn and 2647, for your FYI. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Mr. Hugus.
No, sir.
He answered no, just so everyone knows. Ms. Rock.
Are you sure?
No report.
No report. Thank you. And we are going to move over to our public comment period. This is a comment period for any municipal item for residents. We kindly ask to try to stick to a 5-minute time limit, but if there's anyone that would like to address council on any municipal matter, now would be your time to do so. Sir, once you are signed in, if you could just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Len Young,
Welcome.
Welcome,
live
Len.
in Monroeville. I was a candidate for the position where Ron Harvey's sitting right now, election last week. And a lot of people have been asking me, Len, how'd you do? How'd you do? So for our audience out there, the audience here, I'd just like to share a few numbers so people can know, how did I do? Good question. There are 4 precincts in Ward 3. Okay? I live in the 1st district. It's 2, 3, and 4. In the 1st district of Ward 3, I received this is on election day, live in-person voting. I received 148 votes. My opponent, 84. In District 2 of Ward 3, I received 94 votes. My opponent, 71. District 3 of Ward 3. Election day, in-person voting. I received 123 votes. My opponent, 109. 4th District of Ward 3, University Park Elementary School. Pretty quiet up there. I received 59 votes. My opponent, 36. If you want to do the math, it comes out to 424 votes for myself, a nice even 300 for my opponent. You'd think I'd won, right? No. The next day, Allegheny County counts their absentee and mail-in ballots. The totals as reported to me, I received 106 absentee and mail-in ballot votes, 106. My opponent received 292. Again, do the math. I have 530 votes, my opponent 592. I lose by 62 votes. I've been around the block a few times. I've dealt with a lot of numbers. My business, I deal with numbers, figures, all that. Quite honestly, it just doesn't add up. There was another candidate for a different race in Monroeville. Very similar situation. On election day, this person received a lot of votes. Number one in the races that he was running on election day. Top vote getter. Next day, Allegheny County comes out with their numbers, including the absentee and mail-in ballots. He came in next to last of the 6 candidates for 4 positions. He came in 5th. Didn't make the cut. Coincidence? Could be. I don't know. I will be doing a little investigating myself to
Len, I
see
think
what
you
I can
need to
find.
take that up with Allegheny County.
That's
not just
correct.
Council.
That's right.
Yeah, you're inappropriate, I think, tonight.
Yeah, okay. I understand. Another thing I wanted to share was at the poll, 13 hours up at the Resurrection Church. Although I did leave for about 2 hours to help a blind person, blind woman in East McKeesport, get her to the polls so she could vote, took her back to her apartment, and then I came back to the polls. At the polls, I was there handing out my cards. There were 5 people representing my opponents, some of them here tonight. And the night of the day of the election, by the end of the night, as you heard the numbers, I came out with 424 votes in person, despite the overwhelming number of people handing out cards to the voters coming into the polls that night. And my opponent had his 300. So those are the numbers, and we'll see how it goes. And
That's
don't
fine.
forget, Saturday night, American Legion.
Oh, yeah, there you go, bingo.
Got to get to the bingo, 7 p.m. Doors are open. Lots of good beverages, lots of fun. You might win some money, but at least you have a good time and support a good cause. American Legion, Gold Star Post 820, bottom of Duff Road, or William Penn Highway.
Great.
That's
Thank
all.
you.
Good night.
Hey, Mr. Young, I do appreciate you, putting your name in there and trying to run for office, and I just want to congratulate the successful candidates, but also the people that maybe came up a little short, whether it was here at the school board level as well, and that's what it really takes is community members to get involved and try to get involved. So appreciate you trying to get involved there, Len. I know you'll continue to do so. So we're going to keep the floor open for anyone who'd like to address council. And then, sir, if you could just sign in if you haven't already,
Sign it.
and then state your name for the record and that you're a Monroeville resident.
My name is Frederick Douglas, and believe me, it's legitimate. My name is Frederick Douglas. I'm a businessman an engineering company. I thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to you, the mayor, and other council members. Thank you very much. When I left Lehigh, graduated, I worked for U.S. Steel as a research engineer, just in the back here for many years. So I was a resident of Monroeville. This is where I got started. Currently, one of my employees, Shade Stewart, okay, she's a resident of Monroeville. She's our marketing coordinator. I just wanted to quickly, I know it's been a long night for you guys, so I want to be very quick about it.
And just to be clear, are you currently a resident of Monroeville?
No, I'm not. I live in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this is reserved for residents' comments, only resident and taxpayers.
I see.
So if there's any information you'd like to maybe give to me after the meeting, I'd be happy to disseminate it to council.
Okay.
But as far as the official meeting, it has to be for residents only.
Okay.
Not to put your employee on the spot, but she can
Yeah.
certainly speak, and I'm sure
Yeah.
she doesn't necessarily want to, but she's welcome to. But if there's information you'd like to give to me or the manager,
Okay.
we could disseminate that information, and certainly we could follow up via email or phone afterwards as well.
Can she speak instead of me?
If she's a resident, yes,
Yes.
she can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shade, why don't you take my place?
Okay, my name
Yeah,
is,
just sign in and take your time. You can sign in, and then once you're done signing in, you can state your name for the record. Sorry, Mr. Douglas.
so my name is Shade Stewart. I'm the marketing coordinator for Cosmos Technologies. We are an S Corporation small business engineering company. We have services in civil site design and land development, water and wastewater process engineering, as well as construction and inspection management, water resources engineering, environmental health and safety management. We do 3D laser scanning, and facilities asset and energy management. So we just wanted to come up here and, tell some of our capabilities, and let you know what we can do for you guys.
Very good. Where's the business located?
We are currently in the North Shore. We do have 4 other offices in Louisville, Louisville, Harrisburg, Akron, Cleveland. So,
Okay,
but
great.
we just want to let you know that we are here to
I
help
really
with any
think it would do
projects.
you well to send the information to the mayor and
Yes.
manager.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And the way, on a municipal level, with our outsourced, our third-party vendors as far as our engineering firms, it's a request for proposal, it's a bid process. So that's something that happens from time to time, based on what the flavor of council is. So if down the road, if that's something that a council, we do have, as the gentleman before you spoke about an election day, so we have new council people coming in January. Perhaps they may want to request proposals from all of our engineering firms and everyone we use. So at that point would be the time for you to hand in, applications for that,
Okay.
paper for that. But certainly afterwards, if you could just give us the information, we would love to have it, and we can get everybody on council with the information.
Will do. Well,
Great.
thank you for listening to me today. Have a nice
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave the floor open for any resident to comment on any municipal item. Seeing none, we're closing that portion of the meeting, and we're gonna go over to our council reports. Mrs. Gatos, anything this evening?
Yes, I will start out with, there's a lot of vacancies on boards, Mr. Young, if you want to get involved on a different level. So, just want to throw that out there. We try and tell people that all the time, and actually January's a pretty good time for appointments, so. Happy Veterans Day. We thank you from our hearts for the services that were provided and for our veterans and what they did for this country and for each and every one of us. So let's remember that. Secondly, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Please enjoy your families. They can sometimes leave before you're ready. So enjoy every moment. Now for the fun stuff, which is all of the events that the Park and Rec and the library are putting together. They are doing a gingerbread house contest, and this will all be on our website. There'll be 2 winners. Any Monroeville resident can do it, kids 7 to 16 and 17 and older. You have to pre-register by November 22nd. And then those will be judged, and then all the rules and everything are on the website. Secondly, on Saturday, December 4th from 11 to 1 at our beautiful community park, there will be Santa and Friends drive-through. There'll be Mr. and Mrs. Claus, elves, Elsa and Anna, the Grinch, Buddy the Elf, and we're hoping for either Gateway or the Monroeville Chorus Carolers. They'll have inflatables, the garden club will be there, so this will be a beautiful event for families, kids and families. And lastly, as we always do, this will be our 34th annual Holiday Light Up Contest. Sunday, December 12th from 6 to 9. If your house is decorated, put your lights on. People will be driving around each ward. 7 homes will be picked by each representative for each ward. And then on December 13th, and then winner will be announced as the grand prize winner. And they always put all the photos of the houses up on the website. So it's a great community event to be involved in. And I think that's pretty much everything I have to say, good and or bad.
Thank you. Mr. Poach?
Well, gee, Mrs. Gatos, you took about 2 or 3 of my items, thanks. I'm readjusting my list too, but no, also Happy Veterans Day. It's extremely important. I know we have a number of veterans here that have been, Tom and Steve as well, and up for people that have served, so thank you again so much for all that time. Again, thanks to congratulations to the candidates who will be coming in. I think I neglected to mention that at the last meeting, to do that too, so to everyone that worked and ran a hard campaign, to do that in the communities, to the people that were involved, to do that, it was terrific. And also congratulations again to Officer Cicella. Joe's a good guy. He's a top guy that we have. We're very lucky to have him to do that. And happy Thanksgiving as well. It's come up here very shortly too. So that's enough for now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey?
This is gonna be lengthy. If you got them, you might as well light them.
Need another bottle of water?
Well, first thing is, before I forget, I wear this emblem 2 times a year because my dad landed on Omaha Beach on Normandy. And so I wear it twice a year in honor of him. And just as a side note, I was talking to some young people several weeks ago, and they said to me, Omaha doesn't have a beach. So to let you know what they're teaching in school.
It's terrible.
I looked at them with my jaw open, and I had to sit there and explain to them what Omaha Beach was. Anyway. Once again, I announced earlier that Center Road Bridge is open over the turnpike. Yay. I wanted to congratulate Mayor Griesbach, Joe Hizzy, Bob Stevenson, Mike Adams, and Mr. Biondo for winning their elections. I forgot something when I was addressing Haymaker Village, and I was looking it up because I couldn't remember because I've been retired for 17 years. But one of the things that somebody might consider is that any business or private property owner that owns 10 connecting acres, which I think they do have down there, can request that the municipality enforce the vehicle code on their property. And with that letter and document, the police can enforce stop signs, speed, parking regulations, crosswalks, everything on Haymaker Village. But Haymaker Village has to request that enforcement. When I was on the traffic division, I got that very letter from the mall, from the Monroeville Mall, and we enforce traffic on the Monroeville Mall property. As long as Haymaker Village is 10 acres or more, they can request the same enforcement. Just wanted to let you know. And then here's the part, everybody's gonna have to bear with me. You heard us talk about our ambulance service and our EMS people going out of town at the last meeting, and if you didn't, we did talk about it. Because our EMS service is being pushed just like everyone in the county. So I had our dispatch center run some stats for me, so this is the part you have to bear with me. We went to Pitcairn, this is from November 2nd of last year till November 2nd of this year. we went to Pitcairn, EMS-wise, 679 times. Now, they're a little push-aside exception because they sat down and contracted with us. And so we're their primary EMS service. But here's who's not, and I want you to listen to the numbers. Penn Hills, we went there 521 times. Wilkins Township, 36, East Pittsburgh, 22, McKeesport once, Plum, 101 times, Wilkinsburg, 36, Swissville, 18, Churchill twice, Forest Hills twice, Turtle Creek, 27 times, Wilmerding, 29 times, North Braddock, 15, Braddock, 13, Braddock Hills, 6, Wall, 11, and Verona, 17 times. Our ambulances went to those communities that many times. And I don't know where we step in and start helping our EMS service, or, I mean, the taxpayers are paying for this too.
No,
And,
there he is.
From those
it concerns me when we're going to a community over 100 times a year. It's a little more than, mutual aid, you know. Nobody minds mutual aid. They have a bus accident, they have they ran out of ambulances because they were busy that day. That's not what this is, you know.
This is coverage.
It's coverage, it's primary coverage. I mean,
The ambulances does Penn Hills have that we went there almost as much as Pitcairn?
Penn Hills has a paid service, and to answer your question, I might refer to Mr. Poach, because I think a lot of this happens at night when they only have one crew on, or maybe two crews.
Yeah, they have a tactical shift in between.
And Penn Hills is
10 to 6.
a very busy community, if you don't know, and so that's why their numbers are so high. But just, you have that information now, if we want to do something. The other thing is Mr. Hugus informed me that the cement for the new pavilion that you guys approved for the training center is gonna get poured tomorrow. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving. I'm done.
Mr. Williams, I'm sorry, Mr. Wolf, I'm out of order, everybody's sitting out of order.
Yeah, that's the way they put me.
Mr. Wolf,
It's easy.
Well, ditto to everything, by the way, Ron, that was 917 calls that we helped assist in. If you didn't add that up, I did. First of all, I'd like to thank all the veterans. You do a heck of a job, even whether we're at war or not. I know, because I was put in a situation just to be doing that. And again, ditto to everything that everybody else said. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And also, because of my situation on Thursday, I want to thank everybody who did check on me. Other than that, Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
very good. Mr. Williams,
Well, I want to wish everybody a happy Veterans Day, and you need to realize that freedom is not free. There was a lot of limbs lost, lives lost, and blood shed for the freedoms we have in this country. I'm happy to report that the new Veteran Center in Monroeville is well underway, and for our veterans, it's going to be a great asset to their lives. As we honored these couple police officers for their service, about 2 months ago, I was going down Ford's Road, and there's a Monroeville police car stopped, and officers were there changing a tire for two women there. So we got a great police force, we got a great police chief. They do wonderful services for the community, and I thank them. Mr. Little sent out an email that said that we're one of the best small cities in America. Mr. Little, would you like to elaborate on that further?
Well, yeah, I received that, actually, I forget, but it was put together by Wallet Hub. And us in Bethel Park are one of the few in the state that were ranked as a mid-sized city, suburban suburbs were ranked very high. And what the criteria was, I don't know. It didn't go into that, but I sent it out. It's on our website if anybody wants to look at it. Us in Bethel Park were ranked very high.
The other thing, this was Woodall and I started on the planning commission. One of the criteria was these shopping centers come in, we would ask them to send the municipality a letter that would allow us to enforce the traffic laws of the state.
Has to be at least 10 acres.
Yes, okay. And we would like to continue to do that because I think it's important to have police presence in these centers. I did go over the Center Road Bridge. It amazes me every time I go across one of these bridges, the transition. In a couple months, you won't even know there was another bridge there. They just do a wonderful job, and that's an extension of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Wilson.
Yes, I'd like to thank all of our veterans for their service. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you. And if I could just very briefly touch on the election, I was on the ballot, and I just wanted to thank everyone that came out and voted for me for a second term as your mayor. It's a real honor, and I appreciate everyone having supporting me, and looking forward to another 4 years with another council. So really great thanks to Mayor Stevick for coming up from Pitcairn, along with Pitcairn Officer Lawson for to commemorate our Officer Sacella on the event, and we really appreciate them coming up and everything that the officers did on that day. And as my colleagues up here, I just want to wish everyone a very happy Veterans Day, and a special thanks to all of our veterans who served. So with that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you and good night.